All right, we back with another episode. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Oh boy, this gonna be a good episode though, because you know how transparent we are on this podcast, and I like to make sure I'm being real with y'all. I don't play the trending game. Like I made a pact with myself, right? That regardless who supports me, whether it's with training, with podcasting, with my YouTube page, on Instagram, with my merch store, with the supplements, even in my work life, I'm going to trust my hard work and be consistent and put out, great content. So for that, I'm back with another episode of MTMJ Fit Podcast. I am your host, MTMJ. This is episode 16 of the podcast, season 2. I'm trying to think, right? Should I take another break and then go into season 3? I don't know. I know, like last year was a tough time because we was in the heart of a C19, right? And, I wasn't necessarily too sure about the direction of just the world. Going into the second year of C19, you kind of know no one's shutting down. But the GOAT retired, Tom Brady. And yeah. How will the NFL look? This is for my guys though. How will the NFL look without Tom Brady? Uh, um, how do I say it? Without Tom Brady dominating headlines for like being in the Super Bowl every year. Uh, I'm sure it was very weird, this past weekend to not see old Tommy boy in the NFC or AFC championship game because it's been a mainstay. That's all we've seen. And but to be real with you, this past weekend was awesome for football because you got Kansas City, they got knocked out. And then you had the Rams finally pulling off beating the 49ers after getting dogged by them during the season. which is hilarious. But this is gonna be a great episode, man. I hope y'all enjoy this episode. But of course, you know how I get into it, man. I gotta start the podcast off with some vibes. Let's get it. This can't happen during the podcast. Come on now. Don't do me like that. Y'all, they playing with me. Things ain't working out for me today. I ain't about to oh my goodness. They trying to play with me, y'all. The algorithms is trying to play with me. They don't want me to get my message out. They don't want me to get my message out. But that's okay. We still gonna get the message out. Let's get it. Man, this podcast, we're gonna show some love to Jay-Z. It's been a while since we got an album from him. But you know how Jay-Z is. He put music out when he wants to. Right now, we listen to public service announcement off the Black album. For the YouTube viewers, make sure you go and subscribe to YouTube. Let's get it. Got an echo right now. I don't like it. It might be because of the room. Let's get it. All right, so being transparent, right? Last week, so for the last 16, I don't know, it may be that long. I started at CVS when I was in 2006. It is 2022. So I kind of grew up with that job, right? Needless to say, last week I was suspended, right? And the reason that they suspended me was for time manipulation. Without going too deep in it, I want to be transparent. I get how it works. When I walked in the office, you have a manager and you have my boss basically. And I've been in plenty of those situations. So when they start speaking the corporate talk, you know the vibes. I know what I did. Without going into detail, today I was terminated. And I know when you get suspended from jobs, right? You know the direction. I know what's gonna happen. So I'm sitting there listening, and what I did, I don't regret it, because in this life I'm living right now, it's just me, my wife, and my kids. So I preach this all the time. Like, I will never put my kids and my family before money, right? They come before money, because when money was here, they were here. When money was gone, they still was here. They didn't abandon me, so I'm not going to abandon them. Over the pandemic, I just was grinding by myself. My wife wasn't working because, someone had to stay at home with the kids, right? So when she wanted to get back into the work field, I had to support her. Regardless of how, I had to support, whether it's me picking up and dropping off, whether it's me waiting at home until she get off and then going to work or going back to work. And I understand over the last year the toll that the pandemic kind of put on everyone. Not making no excuses and using that as an scapegoat, but I also understand the toll that the pandemic put on everybody. So the energy at CVS began to change going into kind of like probably the last few months of 2021. The time of the store went back to its normal time post-pandemic. Requirements at the job intensified. And again, there's no excuse for what I did. But here's where things got a little difficult. When I had my first child at 25, I made a pact with myself that if I wasn't mature enough then, that I would make sure that I mature even more for my family, for my kids, right? That goes into like not begging people to take care of my kids, right? The mistake that I know I made was not clocking out when I left the store, right? And I did it with the thought process, okay, I'll be gone like 30 or 40 minutes, right? And then I'll come back. But the problem was that I did that for months, right? Maybe an hour or two. If I couldn't find no sitter, I would sit at home and wait till my wife get off and whatnot. Long story short, that's what got me fired. So when I heard the word suspension, I'm like, it's okay. One thing I am is a believer in God, right? And the last probably month of the 2021, I said, man, I think my time with CVS is coming to an end. I could feel it, right? And I said, it's time for me to like really focus on my business, the podcast, my training, me, being more available, finding more ways to maximize my financial stability, but not putting in so much of my mental. And like I told you, that situation with me and that manager really disturbed my peace. And to be honest with you, I never recovered from it because I will walk into that store, get my job done, and then leave. Right? Do my work. My work never fell off. It's just I had to be more present with my kids. You know, less sleep, more just being available. And in turn, because I did that, that cost me my job. And I be honest with you, I will not apologize for that, right? While I was wrong, and like I explained to them in that meeting, I know what I did wasn't right. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. But at the same token, you can't tell me to put work before my family. I think in that situation, I could have been like, well, clearly I'm not the only one that's doing this. Or I could have been like, those practices are normal, but it's me. I was wrong. I have to take responsibility. So another coworker reached out to me because he hadn't spoke to me in a while, right? And he was asking about my other gig. And I said, yeah, I'm there. But then he asked was I was on vacation. And I'm like, nah, bro. Be honest with you, I gotta let go. And, you know, I explained to him, man. But see, like, I haven't heard from her. And like I explained to you, I've known her just as long as I've been working at CVS. That's why, like, there's no friends in business. Uh, don't join no clique in order to, like, don't kiss nobody's behind in order to get by. Like, if you gotta do what's right, right? I didn't do what's right, and I had to reap what happens from not doing what's right. And it bothered me for a couple of days because it, like, you know, I like to leave things on my own time. I don't like leaving things in a way where, like, folks can look at me and say I was wrong. So if that's the one regret, that is it. I like leaving on my own terms, regardless of what the situation is. And to be honest with you, I should have just quit when I got into it because, like I explained on previous episodes, disrespect is one thing I can't tolerate. And when you allow someone because you genuinely like that person and you're very empathetic and you make excuses for them just treating you like crap, you gotta think, like, in the last year, I had so many accomplishments at CVS in a year. Like, I do loss prevention, so one of my jobs is numbers. Like, when I took over that gig, they were in the red. When I ended that gig, they were in the green. And I'm not going to necessarily say it wasn't a team effort, but to be honest with you, it was a me effort. Some of the things I implemented in the store, some of the relationships I built with thieves to tell them, like, some of just my reactions to theft, like all that good stuff, man. I this setback isn't going to take away from all the accomplishments. And like I explained to the manager, and you can tell when people are disappointed by a situation by the way that they talk. Like talking to this manager today, that one that actually called me, the first thing he asked is, how's your family doing? I said, man, we great. We going to be okay, right? Because at the end of the day, empathy can't be taught, right? You either got it or you don't. But yeah, I wish it had ended differently. But right now we playing JC's Can't Knock the Hustle. You know how that vibe is. Can't knock the hustle, man. Well, I'm telling you, man. This joint tripping today, yo. They hating on me. I don't know why. But we're gonna be okay, man. Because now it gives me an opportunity to focus on content for you guys. To push my narrative that I'm trying to push is of positivity, motivation, inspiration, and transparency. Like, you want to be honest on this podcast, man. But next, we going into talking about, man, my daily habits and activities, right? While I'm a creature of habits, right? Build on habits. But make sure while you building on habits, subscribe to YouTube, man. Support the podcast. Man, make sure you rate and review on Apple Podcasts, man. That helps me get sponsorships, man. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Also, rate on Spotify. That is now available on Spotify. So if you're listening, it takes 2 seconds, man. Just hit that rate, just so that you show your support by rating the podcast, man. Thank you. I'm a creature of habit, so just gonna talk about my daily habits, man. Tell you what I do daily now, especially going into 2022. Focusing more on my body now that I really have the time to focus on my body. Things that I'm doing. Want to talk about that because you can't knock the hustle. Who to think you are? So look, one of the things I've been doing lately is because we're in this season of C19, we also in flu and cold season. I'm pushing this EPN immune greens. Like, I gotta have me some immune greens every day, regardless if I go to the gym. Get you about 8 ounces of water, put you a scoop of immune greens. It don't even have to be EPN's immune greens. I would appreciate if you get you some EPN immune greens, and make sure you put that code in all caps M Johnson 10. But needless to say, this is what we do, man. I get up in the morning, wash my face, and brush my teeth. If get the kids together, right? Take them to school. Prior to leaving out the house, though, I make sure I get my 1 scoop of immune greens. Give me 8 ounces of water. So look, I'm going through the kitchen, right? And her aunt, she's a hoarder, right? But I've been lately finding some things, right, that really is perfect for what I needed to be for. So last week I found this blender. It's a handheld joint, right? You plug it in a wall. But anyway, when I'm, sometimes the shakers, you put your stuffs in there and it doesn't necessarily collect everything. You may see some stuff sitting on the side of the bottle or whatnot. But since I figured out that this was a blender, I have been looking at it. I didn't know what it was. So I've been using it. And yeah, so I blend my immune greens up. If I'm going to the gym after I drop the kids off, I get get your BCA energies from EPN Nutrition. All caps M Johnson 10. Listen, get you some, look, your amino acids are important, right? It helps with building muscle. It helps with recovery. It helps with, like, if you're doing cardio and you're doing it on an empty stomach, perfect. But anyway, that's how I roll. I get my immune greens. I get my BCAAs in my water bottle. I got my fat burner, again, from EPN Nutrition. I got I also got my protein now that I'm taking now because, like I said, we in this fitness season, right, where we're trying to prepare for the summertime. See, if you prepare prior to the summertime, then all you got to do is worry about the slight work in the summertime, just maintain it. So we in preparation season. And like I told you last episode, I stepped on that scale and I wasn't too happy about the weight. So now we got to kick in the cardio. I don't necessarily look what that scale showed, but again, I'm a creature of habit. So when I see those type of things, I'm going to make adjustments to, like, make sure we don't fall off and fall completely off the boat, right? But yeah, we want to make sure we stand on task. So, like, my daily habits, like I explained, you got your immune greens, you got your BCAAs, and then you got, you mix all that good stuff up. Take your fat burner product going in the gym, whatever you want to take. No matter what the brand is. I would prefer EPN Nutrition for all your subs. Make sure you put in M Johnson 10 all caps. But whatever you use, man, be consistent with it, right? And then also, man, make sure you checking your nutrition because the habits are important. But anyway, we go in that gym. We start with I do abs and core to start, right? I go in the gym, I start with abs and core. The reason I start with abs and core because that's the way I want to do it. You do it your way, I do it my way. Then right after that, we get on my favorite arc training machine. Set that levels to about 6, 7. Crank some good tunes in my ear. Good 30 minutes. And if I'm in the mood to do some type of strength and training work on that day one of my week, I normally go into whatever I'm feeling like at the time. It could be biceps, it could be triceps, it could be back, it could be legs. But that's my daily routine, man. And then after that, depending on the time, like today, I wanted to record this podcast because I had like a lot of things going through my mind I wanted to talk to y'all about, and I wanted to make sure I get it out before I forget. I got some things written down, topics I wanted to talk about, so I pulled out some Nutri-Grain bars, blended me up protein shake, super green protein. That's what I take from Vega. 2 scoops, 16 ounces of water. Pulled out the blender again, blended that up, and got to work, man, for you people, for you guys, man. Thank you for your support. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you rate and review the podcast wherever you can rate and review. And thanks again to all the support. Let's go. We about to play Encore from Jay-Z. Am I tripping? This joint tripping today, y'all. I don't know what it is. They don't want me to play music today. Oh, I know why they don't want me to play music today, y'all. They hating. Let's go. Let's go. I know what's happening. So look. I got these goddamn headphones in here, right? And look, it just did it again. So what the Bluetooth is doing, right? Freaking devices, man. We so device hungry. But all these goddamn devices be messing us up or whatnot. So what I gotta start doing is when I'm vibing with you guys, I gotta make sure to disconnect the headphones completely. Because what the headphones keep doing is thinking that I want to listen to them on the Bluetooth, and it keeps like connecting. So while I think I'm retarded or something strange is going on, it's these freaking headphones. I just need to forget the device completely so it can stop trying to connect to them. Anyway, like I said, we playing Jay-Z Encore. Let's get it. I'm keeping all these bloopers on the podcast too. So best believe, if you're listening to the podcast, you're going to hear everything. Because it's sponsored by me. Yeah. Man, make sure you go over to YouTube. If you're on YouTube watching it, man, make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment. Tell me what you think of the podcast, man. Don't just look at it. Make sure you leave a comment or something telling me where you think I can get better. You can DM me on Instagram at _MTheMotivatorJ_fitness on Instagram. Follow too, man. Don't just DM. Make sure you follow. Support the podcast. Let's get it. Subscribe on you. Make sure you subscribe. Let's go. Well, this episode we showing mad love to Jay-Z, man. So I hope y'all like the vibes that I'm playing. So over the last week or 2 or 3 or 4, right? Gilbert Arenas and Kwame Brown has been going back and forth on Instagram and YouTube. I'm talking about this guy Kwame Brown. He's like, I want to support him, but like in so many words, he kind of contradictory. you know, I don't care like if this podcast comes across his you know, his vibe or his team or whoever's kind of watching social media and YouTube in the YouTube space and kind of like getting back to him and letting him know who's talking about him and who's not talking about him. I think when he first started like trending, it was like a complete attack on everyone that kind of like called him a bust, right? And at first, it just seemed like he was going to use his platform for responsibility, being responsible, because that's all he was preaching. But then things changed. He wanted to be trendy, and I don't know necessarily why, but I sat down and watched an interview he recorded with Gilbert. Listen, he got Gilbert Arenas, previous player for the Washington Wizards, Agent Zero to all the Wizards fans in Washington, D.C. But he was able to get Gil on his podcast, man. I'm surprised Gil even showed up. I watched the entire episode, which was like 2 hours, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, some of the stuff Kwame Brown was doing kind of was like, he was acting soft, man. He wasn't acting like a man. But I get it. He was talking to Gilbert in a disrespectful way. And I like Gil's a troll, man. Like, if you know Gil, you know he's goofy. And I don't know him, but following him over the last couple years. And I'm not gonna bring up all the negativity because clearly Kwame Brown did it. The name of his YouTube his YouTube podcast is Busted Life, Bust Life, right? But I want to make sure, like, I can go into details about what was said, but he started asking questions about why do they need sports analysts at these colleges and talking to our youth and all this extra stuff. And I get it, but it didn't matter at that point. Like, why does Gilbert the troll care? Like, his complaint was that Gilbert was working for the white man and all this extra crap. And I think, like I tell you, we got to get away from race in life, man. Like race, you can't constantly think like every white man is against us. You got to look at it. Somehow black people are against us too. Like, folks are so success driven, right, and not people giving, like people lifting. Like, if I get in a job, right, and I become a CEO of a business or a corporation, I'm going to do my best to surround myself around the most competent people that I possibly can, friends or not. Like, the only way to have a successful business is by having successful people in your corner, right? So, like, if the person is white and educated, black and educated, so be it. You know, I'm a vibe with them, right? I don't think necessarily everyone's against you. You also got to look in the mirror and find out like what areas are you wrong. But anyway, back to Kwame. His profile is changing, man. He's consistently attacking like black people, and he got on Gilbert Arenas for doing it. And like, it's one thing to attack people. Listen, then the biggest thing is like during the interview, he brought up Crittenden, and like if you know Crittenden, he's in jail right now. He's an ex-player for the Wizards. But he got some time, and like he just some gump stuff that you just don't tolerate in the street life. And I'm not street, but I was raised in the streets, and I was able to see a lot of things and whatnot, right? And just know his podcast is changing. Like, it's a mixture of positivity, motivation, but it's also trendy, and like, it's starting to turn me off a little bit. I subscribe to his YouTube. I'm not going to unsubscribe because I just think I don't necessarily agree with the direction that he's going in. But I think he looked at kind of a little soft having that conversation with Gil. And I hope things work out for him. That's all I can say about that. Right now, we're playing Heart of the City by Jay-Z, the live version, man. Like, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you go over to the audio, rate and review. Man, make sure you follow so you can get the album the podcast when it first come out. Yeah, support the podcast, man. Let's get it. Yeah, man. Kwame, man, he looks soft, man. I don't care what nobody say, right? And I'm not about to be like, I don't want to be a trendy podcast, man, but like when you judging a man based off of like how men should act, like the questions that he was giving Gilbert wasn't necessarily questions you should be giving somebody when you're trying to like resolve a beef, right? But then at the end of the episode, right, I noticed that I think they both was kind of just doing things to like bring attention to themselves. So I don't know which way to read it, but I hope them guys after having that conversation, I hope they're in a better place, right? But next, man, we're gonna talk about, we in that Super Bowl season, man. Ads galore. You got ads. You know how them ads be, man. So I had an opportunity to go through like some of the ads that's probably gonna be seen on that's gonna be seen during the Super Bowl. So now we're going to talk about, like I was talking to my YouTube family, we're going to talk about some of the Super Bowl ads that you're going to see, man. So I went and looked at some of them, man, and it was hilarious, y'all. Real hilarious, man. Um, I know when they do come out, you gonna be tickled pink. Some of them was goofy, and some of them were like, okay, I can see it. I can see how it's gonna go. So let's talk about it a little bit. So the first joint I saw, right? Oh, they don't add it to it, y'all. They got a Kia on here now. Hellman's, Nissan got one coming out. Michelin got one coming out. Budweiser, E-Trade. E-Trade was good. I think it's gonna be great. They got a Lay's joint that was interesting. But out of all the ones that I saw, right, the best one was the booking.com with Idris Elba, right? And hey, the reason I thought it was the best, so listen. And just to let you know, this is like a 45-minute teaser. So look, some of the ads are like hilarious, and you can see the investment. I'm gonna tell you, the NFL does an amazing job with robbing these companies blind to get on their Super Bowl advertisement. Because boy, the money that you put in, and then probably the money that they charge, it's no wonder why like there's no stopping them. Like even during COVID, in so many instances where other uh, sports arenas and sports areas lost like money, whether it's hockey, baseball. Like baseball right now is in a lockout. Hockey, they already said it last year that it was no way they was going to be able to have a season if they couldn't have fans in the arena. Basketball, You know, they talk about some of the losses they took. Again, they needed the fans. But the NFL, conglomerate. And you can see why. But, you know, next we're going to get into, let's see what else we're going to get into, y'all. So I got some mental health advice, right? I saw that not an Olympic, but a model, Miss America, she lost her life. She committed suicide. Suicide is at an all-time high. It's a lot going on, man. The report that I read from CNN was that she jumped off of an apartment complex and they pronounced her dead at the scene. She was only 30 years old. And you think about, like, when I talk to OGs that's got like 20 plus, 30 plus years older than me, and they talk about this generation being like, it's so difficult, this generation. I believe it, man. Like, I can think back to some of the conversations I used to have with my wife's grandfather about, like, the cost of living, the cost of this and the cost of that. Like, it's hard out here, dog. And like, not to make any excuses. I talk about all the time. I had some dark days, man. But one of the things I can say I'm glad I started doing was kind of communicating those dark days with my wife and just kind of letting her know when I need some time to just breathe. And that's my advice, man. Don't sit on social media and complain to strangers. Don't sit on the phone and like just talk to people that you don't necessarily give two shits about you. Have that one or two people that actually love you, man, that you can talk to about anything and just get it off your chest. Don't harbor it. And I'm a perfect example of sitting back harboring in some of the things that kind of bother me, whether it was in my relationship, whether it was in my personal life, whether it's like working, whether some of the difficulties I had with my body a long time ago, not being happy with myself, just a lot of things. And the one thing I don't do is, like, I control my time and I give my time to the people that matter, right? I don't waste my time with people that don't care about me. And you will know, right? But have those conversations with somebody, man. It don't necessarily got to be a professional. I think, like, every time something's going bad in somebody's life, that the first thing they want to say is, like, go to a therapist or go see somebody else, or, in so many words, like, check yourself into a mental health facility. But folks need to also talk about, like, being able to go to someone that truly, truly loves you and cares about you and cares about your mental health and cares about your mental awareness and your physical and cares about your day-to-day. Like, have somebody to talk to. That's why I talked about going into season 2. I wanted this podcast to be more transparent as far as our brotherhood, because I think sometimes men don't talk. They don't talk enough to one another about, like, how they doing mentally. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Every day is different. When I got suspended from CVS, man, and I knew what was gonna happen. Days after, I sat back and I thought about what I could have done differently. And while every turn I went was like, I couldn't have done nothing differently because I know why I did it. I didn't do it because I was trying to take from anyone. I did it because my family needed me, right? And it wasn't even about money. I think every time I left and came back, I wasn't thinking about the money. I didn't want to lose the time, right? And because I think one thing about time, you can't get time back. I say that all the time. You can't get time back. So I didn't want to lose the time. But, you know, just have somebody to talk to, y'all, because this life we living in, man, it ain't easy, man. And a lot of folks are sitting back in dark places with no one to talk to, and don't have anybody. That's why, like, the people I do my best, man, regardless if you're gonna check on me, to make sure I check on you. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to be that guy truly caring about somebody and something bad happened to you. And the first thing I want to be is, oh my God, Lord Jesus, why, Lord? I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that actually spent the time saying, okay, man, how you doing today, bro? Everything going good? That's why I'm always checking on my boy who's also married, because I know how hard marriage can be, especially early, right? I'm lucky to say that I like been involved with my wife for like going on almost 2 decades. So like, but I can say over the last few years, I've been the most transparent with her about like how I'm feeling. So like when that happened, I sat and I talked to her, man, and she assured me we're gonna be okay. And sometimes that's enough. Like if you alone, like I know like in this generation, there's a lot of kids that rely on the public assistance, whether it's like being in a group home, they may have found themselves getting in trouble, they might be in a shelter, they might be in like, and they might be on the run. But like we're in these colder months, man, and like one of the things I think when you're in that situation, you gotta do whatever you gotta do to survive. Um, I also know that there's a lot of things available to people now that wasn't necessarily available when I was also a street walker. I wasn't homeless, but I've also been in a situation where like I didn't have the money to get around. Like I couldn't catch metro, so I had to walk. Or like I didn't have the money to like eat. I was living like I was getting pennies on the dollar, working for a job, and all I could live off of was making sandwiches. But I still made it. I was also in a situation where like I was hard headed and my grandmother kicked me out. So like I had to find a way like to make it, right? And that's why like I vibe with my wife so hard because when that time was happening, she had my back, right? And I ain't never had nobody have my back like that, especially in this a life that especially going into my adult life. I don't know too many people I can actually depend on. Like I sit back sometimes, like if somebody asks me for something, I'm gonna give it if I have it. But I always also sit back in the back and think like, if I ever needed somebody for something outside of my wife, who can I go to? You hear people always say, you can go to me, or you can do this, or you can do that. But naturally you can't. Like, and the reason I look at it like this, because you get 10 people that you know and you vibe with, and you can't even get them to do the simplest thing as repost your podcast or repost your like merch and all this. So that tells me everything I need to know about if I really needed something, my house catch on fire, something like that happens. I really don't have them to go to. I can't go to them. And these people that I'm talking about spend thousands of hours on social media a year, right? And I talked about that a couple episodes ago. Like, if you get 10 people to repost your episode and each person has 1,000 followers per, God knows how much they can grow your platform. But then folks spend that same amount of time, God, I didn't want to do this. They promote other people's shit that they don't even know, right? I will never get it, and I'm always thinking about it. I will never get that. I don't understand how that works. But make sure you checking on your people and their mental health, man, because it's hard. But like, I began the podcast talking about how Tom Brady retired, and I was watching the I Am Athlete podcast, and I was listening to Arian Foster and B. Marshall and some of the guys they had on this episode talking about like the impact of Brady and the impact of Aaron Rodgers. And this is for my fellas. Like this last topic is gonna be strictly for my fellas, man. Make sure you subscribe and comment below your thoughts on this topic. Make sure if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, rate and review. If you listen on Spotify, rate and review, and then rate and review wherever you had an opportunity to do so. But Tom Brady, man, you can like one thing I am is observing. I kind of, I'm a fan of the NFL. I love the Washington football team, but I'm a fan of great football. And over the last few years, no matter how often you wanted to hate Tom Brady, and you say Tom Brady didn't necessarily have the best weapons, you can see why Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls. I think not Aaron Rodgers. I heard Arian Foster say, man, there's a lot of people that were in Boston when Tom Brady was in Boston, and they didn't necessarily, rock with Tom Brady, right? They thought that the notion, the persona that that's put out about him being the best teammate, it necessarily didn't seem that way. And here's why I disagree, right? I think Tom Brady was never the highest paid person at his position. And I look at that same notion about guys like Kevin Durant. This goes to basketball and guys like LeBron, where these guys kind of made more money off the field than they actually made on the field, or, on their field of play. And then I went a couple weeks ago, I was like, why? I couldn't understand why Green Bay was $44 million over the salary cap. Because I'm like, when you look at their roster, they don't necessarily have the pieces to really say that blase. And then you go like the St. Louis, when you go to LA Rams and you like, how are they able to assemble so many pieces and pay their quarterback? It's like that. It's a sacrifice, right? I heard Aaron Foster say, man, he came through the slumps, right? So he wanted to do whatever he could to make money. He wasn't leaving no money to sign nobody. And that's okay. You have those guys that get into the league to provide for their family and have a better life. And then you got those other guys that they get in the league to be a champion because that's all they knew about being a champion. They never really struggled in their life. So I can see both sides. So that ain't the problem I had with Aaron Foster. I'm going to tell you why Tom Brady is Tom Brady. And this is just my opinion. No one else's. I'm not a sports star, but this is my podcast sponsored by me. So I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. I think Tom Brady trumps Aaron Rodgers because he dares each of his teammates to be great. You could tell by the play. I went into he's been in the league, 20 years, right? And he's still throwing that same Gronk-like middle across the field touchdown to Gronk, like that tight end pass. He still can throw that 50 in, that boom bop where you see the tight end run straight up the field. They get that one out, and then they cut back in. Like, both of these guys are old, but they still was doing that this season. Even when he had Brown. Then you think about, okay, Tom Brady has never been the highest paid player on his team or in the league, but he's always been able to assemble guys around him. The fact that the Bucs was able to bring every single person back, and the quarterback makes the most money out of every position, and they still was able to assemble a team, that same exact team that won the Super Bowl. And I look at those things, and then you go to Aaron Rodgers. You can see so many times where it seemed like he's worrying more about his stats and less about what the team needs. Perfect example was last year. They on the goal line. He had the opportunity to run the ball in and just take that hit. That's a team first play. I think Tom Brady would have took that if he had saw that as slow as Tom Brady run. So to be honest with you, as great as Aaron Rodgers is, I don't necessarily think I would want Aaron Rodgers on my team because I think so many times the proof is in the pudding. I don't care how great he is. He does, over the last few years, it seemed like he was more so stat chasing and less about winning, right? You got to think with Tom Brady was going, even if Tom Brady doesn't believe that age is affecting his performance, he's still going to do his best to make the play, regardless if it's intercepted. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, you see so many times, like for instance, I don't know what the touchdown number was, but he had over the last few years, he's had the lowest percentage of interceptions. And I think sometimes, if you seen early in the season last year, he spent more time worried about making the perfect play or the perfect pass than probably making a play where it's narrow. And that doesn't take away from his greatness, but that separates the two. And that's why your boy is the GOAT. And that's why he has